This is Sam Whitwer, and you are listening to Page Turners. They were not.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Welcome to Only What You Take With You, presented by Page Turners. They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. I wanted to talk to you about the return of someone who is now one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So let's cast our minds back to roughly the year 2010. The third season of Star Wars The Clone Wars hinted that Darth Maul was still alive. Now, as you may recall, Darth Maul was supposedly killed at the end of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where he was cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi. So the story that I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that one day George Lucas walked up to Dave Filoni and said, Darth Maul is back. And Dave said, well, how is that possible? And George said, I don't know, you figure it out. So that's the story of the decision to bring back Maul. Now, I remember at the time, so just to give you an idea, I was not watching the Clone Wars at that time. It was on TV, it was on Cartoon Network. I saw maybe a couple episodes when they were on television. But that's it. So I was not watching the show at the time. But I had heard that Darth Maul was coming back. And my thought was, that's really dumb. Well, guess what, folks? I think it's the best decision they ever made with the character. Now, certainly when The Phantom Menace came out in 1999, one of the things that people were talking about all the time was how cool Darth Maul looked. And the incredible Duel of the Fates fight scene in the Naboo reactor, which is, I think, maybe the best lightsaber fight in Star Wars, maybe. And I think one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars music, not just for Star Wars, but for music in general. John Williams, as the kids say, it was a bop. I'm an old guy, so I don't know if I'm using that word right. The reason I think bringing back Darth Maul was a good idea is that besides the look of the character in Phantom Menace and the really awesome fighting, I didn't think he was that interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, he looked really cool. The double-bladed lightsaber was amazing. And certainly the fight scene is one for the ages. But I didn't find the character that compelling. The Clone Wars changed that for me. So in The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul is played by Ray Park and voiced by Peter Serafinowicz. In the animated series, he is voiced by Sam Witwer. I've gotten to meet Sam twice, and he is so incredibly nice and generous and very nerdy. I think he might be able to out-nerd me on not just Star Wars, but lots of other topics, too. He is a real gentleman, and I'm glad I've gotten to meet him. In fact, I just got to meet him for the second time last weekend. So regardless, he is the voice of Maul in the Clone Wars and the subsequent. He has been also the voice of Maul on Rebels, and even in the Solo movie. Now, the reason that I think that I much prefer this version of the character is because he is really given a personality, motivation, and definitely a quest for bloodthirsty revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi and also the rest of the galaxy. His brother, Savage, finds him and brings him back to his people. Darth Maul, we learn, is a Night Brother. One of the male characters that live on Dathomir alongside the Night Sisters, who are the witches. So we get to learn about where Darth Maul comes from. We get to see his interactions with his brother. We get to see his bloodthirsty quest for revenge. We get to see that he will go through any length to break Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Maul never gets Obi-Wan to break. Even though, I won't spoil it, but he does some terrible things to try to break Obi-Wan. And he never succeeds. So not only is the voice acting incredible, Sam Witwer giving it his all, but the character arc, story, and motivations are more interesting. Also, the fact that Maul is kind of insane. His experience of being cut in half and then being left for dead by Palpatine has caused him to basically lose his mind and go, as they say, off his rocker. So the performance is always slightly unhinged. But what's interesting, if you look at the chronology, we get to see Maul's journey over the course of 20, if not 30 years. And so when we get to old man Maul later, and he's different than younger Maul, but still just as bloodthirsty. But I think that if you have not gotten the opportunity to watch the Clone Wars, particularly the episodes involving Darth Maul, do yourself a favor. They are some of the best episodes in the series. Some of them even written by George Lucas's daughter, Katie Lucas. And yes, you could argue that it's nepotism of some form. But the scripts that she wrote for Clone Wars were incredible. So, it's definitely worth checking it out. Darth Maul is one of my favorite Star Wars characters now. And I think that's thanks to bringing him back for the Clone Wars. Now, certainly we could talk endlessly about the fake deaths. The fake deaths of Star Wars. But in this case, the story that they went with was worth that cliche. And they were able to expand upon his character in a way that they never got to in the Phantom Menace. And you should definitely check out Rebels and Clone Wars. Clone Wars first, and then Rebels. And I think you'll be quite surprised with where Darth Maul's story goes. But, thanks to all this, he is now one of my favorite characters. Anyhow, thank you all for listening. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Thank you for tuning in to Only What You Take With You. Presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.